Hi there, this is James Gallion, and this is another in this chapter in the series called Minor Miracles. Uh, this goes back about 20 years, okay? I've been living in my house here since 1979. My wife and I moved in here just a little, shortly after a year or so after my child was born. He was pretty young, and we moved into this house. And heck, this house was nothing but dirt when we came here. It took us a year to get approved for the loan, and it was everybody was scrounging back at the end of 1979 trying to get a loan. Interest rates were high and everything. And anyway, when I came out here, there was nothing but dirt and a paved street in the middle of it. But we got this house, and we moved in. We was doing pretty good. And anyway, years went on, and about about 20 years ago, I guess that'd be about 15 to 20 years ago, somewhere in that area, somewhere between 95 and 2000. Got a letter, okay? The house has been here, for about 15 or 20 years now, so got a letter in the mail that says North Glen subdivision management company is telling you to paint your house. No, you have a discolored spot of paint on your house. That's what they said. And to paint your house. And I'm like, a discolored spot? I went out and looked around, and yeah, right over my garage, it was kind of a blotchy looking area. It didn't look too good. So I called them up on the phone, and at that time we had a guy on our board of directors that was, I kind of think, referred to as a Nazi. This guy seemed to enjoy giving people grief. He was in charge of the deed restrictions. Anyway, he really did. I mean, this guy was just, I don't know, I think he hated everybody equally. But he had had this letter sent out to me, and told me to paint my house. Well, I'd always cut my yard, never had any problems before, so I got back in touch with him, and I actually talked to him, and I said, well, I see what you're talking about here, so I'll paint that. I ain't got a lot of money right now. My wife's sick and need to take care of her, so I'll paint that spot over. And he said, I remember his words. He says, no, I told you to paint your house. Ah. You told me what to do with my property? I said, oh, you little piece of crud. How dare you? You ain't got no right to tell me what to do with my property. This is my house. I'm paying a ridiculous house note and insurance and everything. You ain't not telling me what to do. Yeah, my old pride getting up there. Yeah, but still, I think any other half-grown man would kind of get his fur up on that. You can just stick that in your ear. I'll paint the thing when I want to now. I'll paint the spot and I'll paint the whole house when I want to. You leave me alone. So I ignored it. Now I got another letter anyway. It said, paint your house, and it's, heck with you, sucker. Then I got a third letter, and this letter was, now I'm not going to tell you this guy's real name, but I'm going to tell you, we'll call him Robert Blackbeard. Blackbeard was very close to his last name, so I'll enjoy using this name. Robert Blackbeard, attorney at law, writes me this letter. And in the letter, it has a $251, I think, check bill in it for the charge for writing the letter. $251. Okay, I'd already got, I think, a bill from the subdivision for the certified letter ordering me to paint my house. Like, stick that in your ear. I'll paint it when I can. I'm trying to keep my wife alive. Our insurance was either gone or so expensive I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't even take her to the doctor. I had no money. Here they are bothering me about a discolored spot of paint, and hey, you can just stick that in, sit on that and rotate. I don't care. Well, I was feeling pretty good about myself, standing up for my family and myself, until I got this attorney letter. Well, I called up this attorney, this old Robert Blackbeard, and I said, hey, what you're crazy. I'm not going to paint my house. I ain't got no money. If I had $251 or whatever it is here to pay you, I'd have used it to buy paint in my house. And he said, Mr. Gallion, let me tell you something. You will comply with the letter and paint your home, or I will seize your property. And like, how dare you threaten me? Well, you can't do squat. You leave me alone. Well, guess what? I was wrong. Back then in Texas, they had some stupid rules that gave management companies this godlike authority. So what they did was this. It was the little trick. If you didn't pay your maintenance fee, which is about $200 a year, they could put a lien against your house and then file a foreclosure on your house and still take your house to pay the lien. If it was a couple $100, it wouldn't matter. They could still take your property and steal it from you. And so you had to basically pay the fine for not complying, that $10 and change or whatever it is, or whatever. Only problem was they added something to this, and I know this is not a lot biblical stuff now, but I'm getting on to where how crazy this was. I'll show you how bad it was. This $251 I was supposed to owe, well, that also got put in front of the maintenance fee. So until I paid my maintenance fee, they could take my house. So I couldn't pay the maintenance fee without first paying the attorney fee, and I sure as heck wasn't going to pay the attorney fee. Well, this attorney started all kind of legal stuff against me. And over the next year and a half, that $251 grew into $5,500. Somewhere in that neighborhood. Because he was, every time he'd send a letter, he'd charge me more money. And then he'd do processes at the court and charge me money for that. And this was nuts. So now I was going to have to pay $5,500 and my maintenance fee, or I would lose my house. Well, I started checking around. I got no money for attorneys and stuff, and I happened to know a judge. Didn't know him, but I knew of him. Who happened to be, I knew he was a Christian, and I got a private meeting with him, and he sent me to an attorney that was going to help me pro bono. Anyway, come to find out, everything this guy said was true. They could take my home over the stupid blasted. And it's all caused because of a discolored spot of paint on my house, and them not being happy with me, painting a spot, and me getting in their face and tell them you could shove it where the sun don't shine. Well, anyway, this progresses and gets worse and worse. So we're now going about 2 years. I'm going down to the board of directors meeting, where these board of directors basically administrate the rules. They help to, take care of all the voting, and they represent the people supposedly and stuff like that of the subdivision. But they represent themselves, and they make sure that the people comply by ordering the management company to send out letters and stuff. Well, anyway, I went before them, and I'm like, look, I'm trying to keep my wife alive. She's severely ill. I got no money for her. So what the heck do you think you're doing this to me? I was mad. I would yell at these people. I said, you better leave me alone. I was just in their face. And they would sit up there basically and respond to me in a, quote, legalistic way. Said, sir, you need to comply. And they wouldn't talk to me much at all because I was doing all the yelling. Well, now after about 2 years, I ended up getting me this attorney, and he's telling me that these people can do this to you. You need to negotiate with them, all this stuff. I'm like, why? I didn't start the fight. Well, over this 2 years, I was very angry. I was getting more and more angry. I was having less and less ability to take care of my family, my wife, because she was really sick. And the last thing I needed was somebody here fighting me from the other side, from the back. So I actually asked for a meeting before a judge to try to work something out with this attorney. Okay, well, old Robert Blackbeard and I go down before this judge. I go downtown, and he's up there in his nice suit, and I'm in my street clothes. And Mr. Blackbeard starts saying, well, Mr. Gallion here, I've worked so hard to try to work with him, and, to try to give him options, and, he's just been real, I've tried my best, but for some reason he just doesn't want to cooperate. And I'm sitting there listening to this load of crud. He ain't done nothing but, I said, excuse me, Your Honor, this guy's a freaking bold-faced liar. He's sitting here, and the judge goes, stop. He says, I will not have you use that kind of language in my court. I'm like, I could see where this was going. Oh, yeah, right. I'd insulted his court. No, him and this lawyer, yeah, right. They played this game all the time before. He just wanted to move on to get me out of there. So I left the building. I was leaving the building, and this lawyer's following me out. just kind of standing there, and I'm sitting here thinking, what can I do to fight back? So I turned to this attorney and I said, let me tell you something. I don't know what to do. I got no money to fight you or anything, but what you're doing is just totally wrong. The best thing I can do is turn you into the state board of attorneys for what you're doing. And he leans forward right there in the hallway outside the courtroom, and he gets about that far from my face, and he says, let me tell you something, Mr. Gallion. You go right ahead and do that. You think you got problems now? I'll make your life a living hell. And the blood just drained. Like, whoa. Well, my bluff wasn't very good. I was going to do it, wouldn't do no good. And I'm like, I don't remember. I think I just shook my head and left. And so I didn't know what to do. I couldn't fight it. I had no money to fight it. I had an attorney that was helping me pro bono, but he was telling me, you need to work something out because they've got the right to do this and that and the other. And you got to remember, all this time I've been very angry with this board of directors, and I've been down there a few times, just done nothing but yell at them. Well, it come down to I was can't remember writing this. I happened all pretty much in the same area, but I know what it went. So I had to go down and have some type of a meeting between my lawyer and that other lawyer, and we were going to try to work something out. That was what I was supposed to do. And I could hear the two lawyers in the back room. They could have been drinking coffee and just yelling for pure pleasure. My lawyer was screaming and cursing at him and stuff like that. Nice. My lawyer was a good lawyer. He was a good man. He was using whatever he could to push his point. And he come out of there, and it's kind of like, this guy ain't budging, because I wanted a lesser sentence. I wanted a lesser to pay. And so I told my lawyer, now this is where God started intervening in spite of me. I didn't know nothing about the law. So I told this lawyer that to go back in the other room and tell the other lawyer that I was just going to file bankruptcy for the debt. And I would have actually wiped it out. I didn't realize it. And my lawyer said, man, that'll ruin you. Your credit will be gone, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, just go back and tell him I'll file bankruptcy for I'll pay him a stinking dime. Well, he does this. He comes back to me, and after some yelling and hollering and stuff like that, he said, well, they'll reduce it to $3,500. And I said, well, I haven't got $3,500. I didn't know it at the time, but this was God working here. And so I said, tell him I'll still file bankruptcy because I got nothing to work with, And so he goes back and he comes back. He says, they won't budge a bit. And I said, well, then fine, I'll file bankruptcy. And then I don't know what went on there, but bottom line was this. At the time, I did printing for a living, okay? And I told him, I said, okay, I'll agree to pay the $3,500 if you let me work it off, okay, by doing the subdivision newsletter. And other than that, I'm filing bankruptcy. Well, this actually was the smartest thing I could have done. So they go back there, they come back, and I remember that little Nazi guy I told you was on the board. He was there with this attorney. We were sitting across from each other, and so they said, okay, you will work it off, And I said, well, I'll do it at a price that's agreeable to you and whatever else you've been paying and stuff, and I'll work this off a bit at a time. Because in printing, I can do it for like 25% of what it really costs me if I really work at it. So I remember the old little Nazi guy sitting there going, he said, well, you're going to do this and this and this and this. I said, well, yeah, but I said, tell you what, as long as you bring me the artwork that's ready to go, I'll make your newsletter. Well, doing the artwork was the biggest part of the job. He agreed to it, so we put it in writing. So sorry for all the details here, but I'm showing you how much of a buildup this thing was. So as I'm now owed $3,500, I would probably be working for them, paying this off for the next 4 years, at least, I would think, for all the work I had to do. And so I was like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. But anyway, I was very mad about it. I was very frustrated. And I ended up going to I was praying about it, and finally calming down. I felt like I kind of lost, and now I'd already fought and did it all my way as much as I could. And then I decided, okay, God, what am I supposed to do now? And he said, go and ask them to forgive you. Now, this had to come from God, because I sure wasn't in any inclination to ask anybody to forgive me. Them suckers needed me to forgive them, if anything, because they're the ones that attacked me. They're the ones that's trying to kill my wife off a bit at a time, you know. But here, where I'm hearing me talking, a lot of this is pride, and it's okay to be proud and be protective of your family. But doggone it, I'm going to chew nails and spit, and I'll cut my arm off if I can use it to beat you with. You know, I was angry. And I thought about this, and it took a few weeks for me to finally think about it. You know, this is right, because I haven't been acting like the quote Christian that I claim to be. So I went down to the board meeting, and I got up in front of them, and I said, okay, guys, I want to ask you to forgive me for the way I've been acting. I'm a Christian, and no matter what's bad or good here, I haven't been acting like one. And these guys, I know they had to be shocked. Like, what's he up to? They were all there listening to me, and I said, I want to ask your forgiveness. I'm going to do whatever I can to get this thing paid one way or another. You know, whatever I can do. Well, it felt like a big relief, but I actually did not know what I was going to be able to do, because I was still going to have to end up paying almost $1,000 in materials and to buy even the stuff, and spend hours of work over years to get this paid off. And maybe a week later, I was in a parking lot of a hardware store, and I heard someone behind me say, Mr. Gallion. I turned around, and it was one of the members of the board. And he said, Mr. Gallion, I just want to let you know that we really appreciate what you said, and what you said, and it meant a lot to us. We're going to see what we can do for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. That was kind of the end of the conversation. And a few days later, I ran into another member of the board. He said, Mr. Gallion, we appreciate what you said, and we're really going to do what we can to help you out here. We were afraid to talk to you. You were so angry. And the attorney said, don't talk to you at all, which attorneys will do. And he said, don't communicate with you at all. And but you were so angry, we were afraid to even approach you. But after what you said, we're going to do what we can to help you out. Well, they called me up a few weeks later to do a newsletter and some little cheesy business cards, which I think would have been a total of about $400, you know, off my bill, leaving a lot, about $3,100 left to pay. So I said, okay, well, there's the bill, and I did the work, and I sent them a bill. Well, a little while later, I get a call from one of the members of the board, and he said, Mr. Gallion, your bill is incorrect. And I said, no, it isn't. I said, I checked prices. This is, as cheap, if not cheaper, than you were paying before. And he goes, no, you don't understand, sir. You didn't charge enough. And I'm like, what? I never heard in my life, and all the years I've been in business, and everyone complained that I didn't charge them enough. He said, yeah. You see this newsletter here? We'd pay at least, probably got $2,000, $2,500 for this newsletter. And I'm like, what? Yeah, that's a very expensive type newsletter you're doing there. And these business cards here, these cost hundreds of bucks a piece. I know what it costs us this. I figure, that probably added all together, it probably come to about $3,500, which is what I owed them. And isn't that amazing? Because, yeah, people being nice, but if I continued going, and I'm going to fight you to the freaking bitter end, I'll grit my teeth, I would have either been in major debt for years, or I'd have lost my house, But I got to a point after I did it my way for 2 years and got the thing into a major mess. I finally got it to a point that I decided I couldn't fix it. That Jim Gallion wasn't going to get this solved, And because I finally broke my pride, and I said, okay, God, I'll do it your way. And it took me a couple of weeks after he told me to do it that way for me to do it. Then it got resolved. it just proves right there to me that we need to listen to what God tells us, not what we want to do. If we got some kind of problem going on, yeah, our first instinct is to go and fix it ourselves. But our first instinct should be to say, God, okay, what am I supposed to do here? By the way, I'm doing that right now. I'm going like, God, what am I supposed to do there? I got no money for food right now. Literally, I'm supposed to go shopping tomorrow, but no, God's going to provide. We'll see what happens. I'm supposed to go shopping on Easter and buy some groceries, but we don't have a penny right now to go do anything. But as far as I know, but the God's going to provide. He'll find us a way of doing this. Uh, it's just it's amazing what God can do with us if we're willing to do stuff His way. It took 2.5 years for me to get through my thick, rock-headed skull to listen to what God said. And if I'd done it 2 years earlier, maybe I'd never had this problem happen. You know. By the way, I had already painted my whole house. I went ahead and did it. I got the money and painted the whole house, but it didn't matter because they were after all this money that had been built up. If I just went ahead and painted the stupid house, you know, I was able to find the money to do it. But I didn't want nobody telling me what to do with my own home. How dare you? That's that pride again. I think that's something I have to work on the rest of my life. So just thought I'd share this with you. It's one of my longer videos, but hey, I'll talk you to death if you let me. So hey, you know, next time you have an issue, something like that, maybe you ought to just kind of say, God, let me kind of check this out with you first and sincerely ask you what you want me to do. Thing is, you got to be prepared to do what He wants you to do, because He'll put it in your head to tell you if you got a relationship with Christ, if you got a relationship with God, and you don't have that thing called sin blocking it. You know, if you've accepted Christ in your life and you're sitting there going, God, you know, I accepted your sacrifice and I said I was going to change my ways, and that includes this pride that I've got in myself of being able to fight my own battles. Well, I'm being reminded again right now. So that's pretty much the story here. And y'all have a blessed day and have a it's tomorrow's Easter. You may be watching this thing totally out of sequence here. I don't know when you'll get to watch this one here, but y'all have a blessed Easter and God bless you.